Hey, this is Aurie Styla, and you're listening to Replay Gang, the show where a special guest tells me about their life journey through the video games they've played along the way. This week, I'm joined by comedian and presenter Matt Richardson. We talked about skipping work to catch Pokemon, the driver tutorial level, oh, well, everyone remembers that one, his extreme love for Flight Simulator, and loads more. Matt is hilarious. No, believe me, you are going to have a great time listening to this conversation because I had a great time talking to him. And hey, do not forget to give us a rating wherever you get your podcasts. 5 stars, no subliminals. And if you enjoyed this episode as well, please send it along to a friend. Anyway, here's Matt Richardson. What's going on, everybody? You are back with me with another episode, and I have another great guest. I'm going to give you a little spiel about my guest today. He's an award-winning comedian and presenter. You may have seen him on telly hosting The Extra Factor and Celebrity Haunted Mansion. I would never go in a haunted mansion myself. As well as competing in Celebrity Mastermind and Dancing on Ice. And you've heard him on the radio and his own podcast, I Am Prime Minister. He's here today to talk about his life in video games. Welcome to the show, Matt Richardson. How you doing, Matt? You good?
I'm really good, man. Thank you very much.
Dancing on Ice, Celebrity Haunted Mansion.
Look, mate, it's all the big comedy hitters, that, isn't it? You know, people want to do Mock the Week. They want to do Have I Got News for You? No one fancies presenting a show where Katie Price has to go and get Ghost to feel her up, which is what she was trying to do. And
I can't respond to that. I really can't.
Mate, she was so in the. Sorry, mate. That's not what you wanted to come
that's
into,
fine.
But you know,
that's fine. I actually appreciate when people just not coming and going, all right, video game. So
yeah.
Well,
I'm
thank
quite
you for that
nervous
bit.
about the video game chat because I know that you're a proper gamer. Like you're really into it. You like your stuff that's good quality. I love video games, but I don't think my pedigree is as good as I would like.
Doesn't have to be. There are other people that have been on here that have had huge gaps in gaming, and so I'm not expecting you to have a consistent, like, high pedigree or knowledge base of gaming. Just tell me about your base of gaming.
I have gotten into some shockers, so I'm very happy to talk about it. Just don't judge me if you're listening.
I don't judge anybody. Anyone who picks up a pad and plays a game, even if it's one game or 1,000, plays games. That's how I see it, mate.
Cool. I'm glad. Thank you.
What was the first one you ever remember playing?
So the first game I ever remember playing is I got a Game Boy Color.
Okay.
Not a Game Boy. I had a black and white one. I had a yellow black and white Game Boy.
Oh, Pocket. Game Boy Pocket.
Yeah, I had a Game Boy Pocket. That's what I had.
The one,
I had a Game Boy Pocket, and Mario was the one that came with it. So that was my first experience. And then, obviously, like everyone, Pokemon. Pokemon Red was my my specific Pokemon poison. And about 5 or 6 years ago, I bought a Game Boy and Pokemon again. And it's still, considering it's an 8-bit game, it is so good.
It holds up. It really does.
It really holds up. And it's epic. Like, it's vast, this game. Like, it goes on forever and ever. And there was so many different ways it could go. And it was quite 60 quid to get the game again. I think they're collectible now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I bought it on eBay. And take it on holiday, and I lose hours to it again. And considering that nowadays you get things that are so immersive and so incredibly made, that game can still pique your attention, even though it is decades behind now.
Would you ever play some of the newer ones, or is it only kind of the nostalgia of the older ones that when you go back to it, you're like, I really enjoy it? Because the newer ones are big too.
Yeah. Like, what do you mean, the Pokemons?
Yeah, the newer Pokemon.
No,
games.
I have never played a Pokemon apart from Pokemon Red. Like, that is the only one I've ever played. And Yellow, I did have Yellow for a while, but I found it too hard because the first battle is against Brock, and Electric and Rock Pokemon don't really work together. It was very difficult. And I didn't want to get one of the little Weevil things and, like, train that up when you've got a Pikachu. Yeah. So I went back to Red. But no, so the Pokemon thing, I'm very much stuck in that generation and that bit of nostalgia for me.
It's still a good generation.
Yeah. And like when Pokemon Go came, I did have like a good 3 or 4 months playing Pokemon Go. But that is my only other experience.
That's the one where you would get up and go out and see. I never got stuck into Pokemon Go when you actually get up and leave your house and go different places. Yeah. Because I remember seeing there'll be traffic in certain areas of Wembley where people heard, there was a rare Snorlax that might be down Wembley Park, like the walkway. And I remember seeing about 200 people in one day. I was going to the cinema and they were just outside, all with their phones out. And I felt so dirty instantly knowing what they were doing, going, oh, this is normal. They're just trying to find a rare Pokemon.
Yeah, of
but
course.
I just didn't get into it as much as they did. It was crazy that time.
I had a bit of a time with it, and but there were times where my boss. So when I was at a radio station at the time. I was on Virgin, and my boss at Virgin liked it as well. So we were sat in the office, and I was on air, and he went, "There's a Cubone literally around the corner." And I was like, "I'm just about to do a link." He went, "Pre-record it. We're going out Cubone hunting."
Oh, come on.
Yeah. And we went and did that, which is so fun. Just like neglecting my job because we wanted to go and find this Pokemon that was up the road.
That's crazy. Would you say the Game Boy Pocket was like the console that kind of hooked you, or the game? And Pokemon sounds like the game that hooked you as well, really.
I spent hundreds of hours on that game. Like, I must have competed it, going up and down the island side, trying to get Masingno, the cheat,
the little
that
cheat
was on
thing,
there,
the little glitch.
Yeah, to try and then get Mew. Like, I did, it would really, really took me. And then, but also, like, I played hundreds of hours of Mario as well on there.
Wait, so Mario in the Pocket, that would have been the Mario Land.
It was Mario Land, yeah. So I did a lot. So a very pure start. And then after a while, I got a PS1.
Okay,
so when
cool.
PS1s were big, my dad bought a PS1 for me, he says. And then he proceeded to play it for hours and hours and hours, and I barely got a look in. And the game we used to play together when I was about 10, Medal of Honor.
Oh, yes. Oh, do you know what? Medal of Honor is a classic. You threw me back there. Medal of Honor was one of those games where people used to play it. Like, it had such a great kind of want for you to continue getting through the story rather than just jump on and play, and then like an arcade game. I remember that being one of the first games that a lot of people go, no, you got to watch this, you got to play it all the way through. That's a classic.
Yeah, it's a real classic, and it was sort of like, at the time, was innovative, like being able to wander around this massive section of rural France in the first one, and go around all these towns, and, to have some sort of narrative. It was one of the first games, I think, where you couldn't, like you say, you can't just jump on. You have to set aside a couple of hours.
Yeah.
Or there's no point playing it. Which is obviously now the way all games are, right? You can't just... There's no game to jump on and do 10 minutes, really, anymore.
There's no kind of narrative-based game, but so there's been a huge kind of back and forth with a lot of these publishers that put out games that all they are there for is for you to basically jump in, play online, and then pay to play in so they can make more money. And then after a while, multiplayer games got annoying for a lot of people who then said, no, I want to be able to like feel a story. And that's where Sony thrives, is their story-based games. Spider-Man, Last of Us, Uncharted, all of those games are story-based games where you have to sink your teeth into and go, I want to play through this. Red Dead Redemption, like, these are huge games that
so
the narrative drives it.
I've got a PS4 now, and I've got Red Dead. I'm not like, I would say that, like, I'm not I play it once every couple of weeks. I play something, but like Red Dead is something that I've probably put an hour into. I got it one Christmas, and then but it's one of those, every time I do it, I steal a few moments, and I go, what I need really is a Sunday where I can sit and spend 6 hours, like, really getting into it.
Yeah, but the Sunday never comes. You never have the 6 hours to do it anymore. Yeah,
because there's always something to do, like, oh, I need to power wash the driveway or something like that, when actually what I want to be doing is riding around on horseback in a fantasy world.
Did you hear that, people? Power wash driveway. This guy's doing well for himself.
Yeah. I've got a power washer and the driveway.
Wait, hold on. Do you live in, where do you live? London?
No, I live in Oxfordshire.
Oh, yeah, power wash and driveway. Yeah, If it's got a Shire in there, it's fine.
Yeah. I don't have a driveway in Hampstead. Don't worry. Like,
I was about to say, I need to get on Celebrity Haunted House.
No, mate. Yeah, that is not driveway. I've never earned driveway London money.
Do you remember any characters when you used to play games that you used to resonate with? Now, because I've got some in my head that I could look at look at you and go, because you're very, very energetic and you're very fast paced talking. I can think of some characters. But
go on.
Do you want me? Oh,
go on.
Okay, fast-paced characters that you would resonate with, that would be high energy. It'd be one of the Tasmanian Devil in some of the video games.
Crash Bandicoot, something like
Crash
that.
Bandicoot, yeah, the ones that spin around all over the place.
Yeah, that is very much me.
But have you got any yourself?
Not really. So when I was younger, I guess like I would play those kind of games. I very quickly, as a tween, got into strategy games.
Okay.
So I was really, really, really into The Sims.
Okay.
In a big way. Roller Coaster Tycoon,
Love Roller Coaster
which was
Tycoon.
a big game for me. Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 in particular has a lot of time in my life. And then I was into Zoo Tycoon, Airline Tycoon. So Airline Tycoon is where you run an airline, like a bit. It's basically Football Manager for airlines.
But
like
for
that's
airlines,
how I would describe it. So I lost hours to that. And it was all of those kind of games. A game that I loved that you can't get anymore. They've stopped it. And I'm trying to get a disc, and it's really hard, is The Movies.
I've never heard of that. What's The Movies?
The Movies was a game where you start a movie studio in the 1920s in Hollywood, and you build it like, you have like writers' rooms, and you build a movie studio, and like, as you earn more money, you build more sound stages or big special effects stages. You hire actors, you hire writers, you do all this stuff. It's like another tycoon game basically, but for running a movie studio. And you start in the 20s, and and the technology progresses and everything through the years. I played that every day for about 3 years, and then I lost my disc of it. God knows where it's gone. And to get it, they've stopped making it. You can't. It's out of print, so you can't get it, and I can't even find it secondhand.
Is it a PC? Was it a PC game or a console game?
So I was for years, my brother had an Xbox. I moved to PC gaming really. So I was very much about like building theme parks, zoos, like businesses, like all of that I really enjoyed rather than console games.
I'm going to look up The Movies now.
It's one of these frustrating things that I think Mac, if you're into games, you buy a PC, right? So a lot of Mac games don't do a second edition or don't, like, when they get a second version of the game. So for example, the latest version of Roller Coaster Tycoon is called Planet Coaster, and Planet Coaster
of course,
in lockdown I spent like 300 quid on all the expansion packs. I played it morning to night. It was great. And the second one's coming out in like 3 weeks, and they're not doing a Mac version, so I'm looking at buying like an entry level gaming PC just to play that.
It's like they did. They redid Theme Hospital, and it's now 2 Point Hospital.
Yeah. I did all the promotion for it. I went and did a load of interviews for them. Like that was one of my jobs out of lockdown. Was they were like, "Do you want to come and do a load of interviews about this game?" Because I loved Theme Hospital as well. Yeah. And I sort of talked about liking these games. They're like, "Hey, we just need someone to go on radio shows and say that it's out and it's really cool."
I love the game. I play it now on my Switch when I'm on the go.
You were playing it last time I saw you.
Oh, was I? Oh,
yes.
Serious? I did.
You were playing it last time I saw you.
Not at the store. Where was it I last saw you? It was another gig after
Brighton.
Comedia, that was it.
You were playing it, and it was so nostalgic. But yeah, like that was another great game. You know the woman who's the voiceover of that on the tannoy goes and does gigs where like they play the Theme Hospital music, and she does a live voiceover of, Doctor needed in this ward.
That we pay for. Listen, there's money out there to be made. If that's what she gets paid to go and do.
Well, I was going because
wow, that's upset me, but it's made me proud of her as well. But go Karen.
Before Planet Coaster came out, where I did a test, I did like an audition to be like the voice of the tutorial version of Planet Coaster that never went my way, which I was gutted about because I thought, well, I used to play these games. That'd be cool to be in one.
Yeah, that's cool.
You've been in a game.
I have. Company of Crime. I was a voice of a police officer and of a criminal. So basically, it'd be the conversations that they have between each other during the game.
I think they've offered you that police officer so they don't look racist, by the way.
Exactly that. I said that because
we really want him. We really want him for this game, but we can't just.
But we don't want to just give him the one side. And here's the joke. Here's the joke. I cannot find for the life of me, when I go through the game, I cannot find anywhere where they use my voice for the police. All you can hear me is, "All right, I'll get him. All right, mate, go and get it." Like it's kind of gruff Idris Elba sounding. "All right, son, yeah, I'll take it out, yeah. Yeah, let's go. Yeah, come on. Coppers are coming.
I bet your copper's been. I bet he's been suspended or something.
He
They've
has
really
been, yeah,
doubled
pending
down
investigation.
on there. Taking money from a crime scene.
Oh, mate. The only person they got is an audio witness that says, well, you sounded like one of the other guys that were in the building taking the stuff. Greatest video game of all time, Matt?
Look, I think I played a lot of it, and I think this is an easy answer just because I think it really captured the imagination a lot. Modern Warfare 2.
Okay, yeah.
I think it was one of the very first games where everyone acknowledged that these were bigger than movies. Like, I think it was a real breakthrough moment where they had, like, Kevin Spacey was in it, which obviously is not ideal now, but, you know, big Hollywood actor. Hans Zimmer did the music. Like, it was the first time a game felt like a blockbuster release. And I think since then, that happens all the time. But that was one of the first moments where gaming had really bled into the mainstream. So that's why I think it's the best game.
Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, when that came out, I remember it kind of did the same thing that Halo did for first-person shooting games. It kind of gave a whole world and a whole gravitas towards the world that you're playing in. So rather than it just be, I need to get to the finish line and done, you were invested in the characters. You were invested in the acting. You were invested in the storyline. So I can see why you say that. I was never a first-person shooting game fan, but I did play Modern Warfare when it came out, and Modern Warfare 2. I can understand why it hooked so many people. It was huge.
And also, like, it was one of those that I'm not very good at those games. Like, I'm not great at, like, if I go online, it's an absolute bloodbath. It's not fun. And being called slurs by 15-year-olds in America makes it worse. But it was the first game that I felt like wasn't too dense to get into. Like, I didn't feel like I needed to have a load of pre-knowledge about how to play these games. It was super accessible. And I probably played it through a couple of times and then used to play online a little bit. But yeah, I think for someone that I wouldn't consider myself that kind of gamer, it made me feel like I was. And I think that's why it's one of the best games, because it opened that up so much.
Fair enough. And what about the worst game of all time?
The worst game of all time.
It doesn't have to be the worst game of all time by
the worst game I've played.
Yeah. Let's say that you've played or that you're aware of yourself or seen being played that you don't.
This might be controversial because it's quite well loved. Spyro.
You're gonna have to.
Do you know Spyro?
Of course I know Spyro the Dragon, one of the greatest
Spyro the Dragon, the little purple dragon.
Yes, one of the greatest platform games on PlayStation. You're gonna have to explain your thinking here.
So my other half bought it. When they re-released all three of them together a few years ago.
Yeah.
That's why we have a PlayStation 4. Is she bought a PlayStation 4 to play Spyro.
Good on her. She sounds like a great woman.
She really built it up for me and made it very exciting. And I just thought it was really dull. I didn't have the nostalgia attachment, so it just wasn't for me. Like, I thought it was really boring.
I can't believe that.
The other worst game. So if you don't agree with that, I'll give you another option. Driver.
Okay, all right.
And my reason for this is one reason. There is only one reason.
You couldn't get through the tutorial level.
You couldn't get through the fucking tutorial level. I had to get, as like an 11-year-old, I had to get one of my dad's friends who was really into gaming. He took that game away for 8 weeks to try and get through the tutorial level with my memory card to do it for me. Once you're through the tutorial, it's Grand Theft Auto without getting out the car. Like, that's kind of what it is.
That's what Driver is, yeah, definitely.
But it's the OG version, isn't it? Like, it was before Grand Theft Auto, I think.
Driver, no. So the original Grand Theft Auto came out.
When you looked above, when it was like 2D and you were above, yeah.
That was on PC. That was like early 90s, early to mid 90s. About 94, 95, don't quote me on that. But it's around that time. Driver came out on the PlayStation 1. I think it was 96 or 97. It's one of those two. So Driver came out after Grand Theft Auto, but before Grand Theft Auto 3 when it was in the 3D world. But you just couldn't get out of the car.
And I think once you're through, like, it's San Francisco, it's a massive map, like, it's really good fun.
Yeah.
But that was such a big stumbling block that I think that was a major fail from them.
It was a huge. Do you know what it was? No one knew what slalom meant when you were like 10 years old. So when it said you had to slalom through the different like posts that were there,
Yeah.
like people would get shocked, like, how am I supposed to do this? What am I supposed to get through? And there was no right like direction to help you. Getting on the internet wasn't as easy back then to go, how do I pass this? So Driver, if you didn't get past that bit, I could understand why that was so frustrating for you.
Oh my god, yeah, it was so impossible to do. Like, I bought the cheap manual to try and get through it. You know, when I used to go into Game and buy the books of like, how to get through, like all of that. And in the end, I'd get someone else to do it. But I just think to make that bit difficult was an error. I mean, they did very well in the end, didn't they? And they released a second one, but man, I think that was that. I found that so frustrating as a child.
I think if they released it without having where you could skip the tutorial. One of my favorite games is Gears of War, and what they did in the first level is you're released out of prison, and once you're released, you have the option with the guy who's released you out of prison. He's freed you because the prison's been kind of bombed and raided and stuff. You've just been locked up. It's come to find you to get you out, to help you out because you're one of the soldiers that know how to defeat these armies. Once you're released, he goes, do you need a refresher of how to do this, or should we just go and do what we got to do? And the refresher basically is them going the long way through the building to get to where the next point is, or you could just go straight through the door that's in front of you and it becomes part of the storyline. If in Driver, what they did, you could just drive out of the garage and go straight to the action. Then when you finish practicing in those, then I think it would have had a much better response.
Totally. I just think, you know, especially when, I guess that's when games were getting super popular. Yeah. So I was young. I'd never played a game like that before. And then to have that be so tricky, I think makes it really annoying.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that one. Now that you say it like that, I'm still hurt by what you said. Spyro is one of the worst games of all time.
Mate. It's just boring. It's just not for me.
Gosh. Number one is like, you know, here's the project. Here's what we're trying to do. Do you like it? Number two, they built up on it and said, look, here's some new dragons. Here's some new powers that you have. Number three, very similar because it's the same studio as Crash Bandicoot. Very similar. In the sense of it built up on what was a basic way of playing the game, kept to it and said, all right, we just add more and more and more. And it was so good. I'm hurt by this, mate. I'm really
sorry, mate. All I want in life is for you to like me. And this is this was an absolute, this turns out this was an error. I should have just said no to the podcast or just kept my Spyro opinions
to yourself.
I feel like you've just found out I vote Reform. Do you know, like that's the reaction I'm getting from you. Sort of a real polite disappointment deep within you.
Listen, is there any games you're coming back to now? Like currently, while we're on shows, while we're touring, while we're about, is there any games that you're like, oh, I go back to this now?
Yeah,
as of current?
So Airline Tycoon. So once again, which is like a kind of strategy game I have on my laptop and like play it out and about because you can dip in and out and it's like kind of easy enough to do. And there's like, so I do that. But the one that I'm playing at the moment, I bought it last year and I'm kind of whenever I've got a couple of hours, Hogwarts Legacy.
Okay, yeah, Harry Potter game.
Yeah, and I think like, look, I like Harry Potter as much as the next Sado in their 30s. So it's just a great world, and because it's one you're so familiar with, it's a really good game, and there's so much to do. So I'm really enjoying that. So I've not come back to it as much as discovered it a bit later.
Do you tend to play the games at home, or is it something when you're on the
home,
go?
Yeah, if I'm out on the road, like you've got is it a Switch you have?
I got a Switch, and I got a Portal now as well, the PlayStation Portal. So both.
Yeah,
of them,
no, I've never ever since I had a Game Boy Advance is the last thing I had like that, and then now I would say, that I play them at home. If I'm going to play a game, it'll be at home. Planet Coaster, I still play. Like I said, the new one's out like in a week or two, and I am thinking about like, can I find a £400 gaming PC so I can play it?
With the okay, fair enough. £400 gaming PC. Good luck with that one, my friend.
Yeah, mate. I know. I mean,
to be fair, for that game, probably it will be okay. It won't. Yeah,
that's what I mean. Like, I don't need something. The other thing that I would really like to play that I used to waste so much of my time. So I've mentioned all these games. The one I spent the most time on, Flight Simulator 2002.
I was literally about to ask you that. Like, Airline Tycoon is you manage the airline, but was there not a part of you that said, I want to fly the plane?
I flew the planes. And like, look, fighter jets, I can take or leave. I'm flying the airliners. I'm a sad man. I used to do the flight as a teenager. Right, I don't think I've said this publicly before. I used to do the flight from London to JFK
In
real time. And I would take off and, like, you know, you put it on, maybe you program a bit of weather in the middle to make it more interesting of that 8-hour trip. But
I'm sorry. No, Matt, I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you. I'm laughing with you on this one. Carry on, please.
It gets worse. So I used to sit in my room and I'd put a film on and I'd pretend that was the in-flight film. So I would do a pretend announcement and be like, ladies and gentlemen, today's in-flight movie is Finding Nemo. I hope you enjoy it. And then I'd do it and then... and I would do all the announcements for, like... ladies and gentlemen, we've switched the seatbelt sign on. If you just hold tight, we're going to have a bit of turbulence up ahead.
No.
But our crew on board, yeah, man, I was in. That was my dream job for years. And I used to just sit there doing it. And once again, this is another game where they don't make, it's never, because it's a Microsoft game, they don't make it for Mac. And I've had Macs for the last like 10 years. So every time I've done like a good, you know, like a little corporate job, I'm always like, should I just buy a massive gaming PC so I can play Flight Simulator all day? I used to have, as well as like, so I started with a joystick, and then I had a yoke, you know, the proper yoke with with the, you know, the throttles on, and pedals.
Wait. All right, maybe I'm ignorant, but why do flights need pedals?
Well, for the trim. So you can, like, obviously the left and right on the yoke is your flaps, but you have the trim on your tail, which is, so you set your plane. If it's like there's a headwind or a side wind, you set the trim, and it's to drive on the ground as well. So yeah, I had all that. I loved that game, and also in the 2002 version, and then I had the 2004, and then eventually X, which was a bit too big for my PC at the time. You know, the world was the world. Like, it was, you could go anywhere, you could do anything, you could take off from pretty much any airport that existed. You could download so much extra content, and this is before, like, you know, back in the day, like, you just went on websites and people were making it and giving it out. Like other planes, airports with more detail and more scenery. I bought an expansion pack that gave me the Avro RJ. My God, hang on. The Avro RJ 100 was my favourite commercial aircraft. They don't fly them anymore. They used to fly at London City a lot. They were a little 4-engine jet with like a overhead, an over-the-top wing. And I bought like 30 quid a super hyper detailed expansion pack for that. So yeah, that was my big game. That was the one that, like, I couldn't wait to get home from school, and I spent hours on these forums where people would be like, "Oh, I've made the 777, or I've made whatever it is," and you download all these extra planes and extra things to do.
Mate, we need to get you somehow to Washington to go to the Boeing factory so you can just see them there in real life.
I have pitched so many ideas for shows about planes so I can go and do stuff like that and go to a plane boneyard. I actually went to Toulouse in May for work, and you land at Toulouse's the Airbus factory is at the airport. And I spent like 4 hours at the airport just watching them like fly all these new planes and all the belugas coming in. I'm a big plane nerd. Like, when I did Mastermind, I did Concorde was my specialist subject.
Wow.
I'm
not mad at it. I think that's dope. I think that's amazing. I was a bit shocked that he put Nemo on. Ladies and gentlemen,
not always, but it had to be a family film because, you know, this is, I'm talking about, do you remember when planes just had one big screen?
So you had to all watch the same thing.
It wasn't all individual screens by that point. So yeah, we were all watching the same thing, and I loved it. Oh my God, it was like that game. That's probably, my mum and dad bought it for me. That's probably the best, like, pound for enjoyment of anything they ever bought me as a child.
I think well done to them for getting that. That is, I never got into it. And I think, I don't know, I have this thing about games where they're too realistic, i.e. they simulate life too much and allow you to do things you can actually do. I kind of avoid. Now, obviously, I'm not a pilot. I'm not a pilot, but things like football games, I can go out and play that on the street. I can't go out and just randomly fly a plane. So I may go into getting into that, but I just never did. But
after a point, like, I've got a friend who is a pilot for British Airways, and he's like, it's so dull. Because these planes are so advanced, and like they are so ready, and you're so well trained. He's like, you take off, and you basically don't do much. And
for
then
7 hours, yeah.
For 7 hours, really? Like, it's, you have to be alert, but it's, and like, I had a couple of like fighter jet games and stuff like that, but it was always the boring ones. And I think there's something meditative about it, because people love, I have Truck Simulator, Euro Truck Simulator. And like the other week I did it, and it was like, you got to deliver this thing from Plymouth to London. And I was doing it. And as I was doing it, I was like, I've done this drive.
Yeah.
Like, I've come back from a gig in Plymouth.
Why do you
and I
need
wasn't
to
doing
do
50 miles an hour. But there's something so like, it's like weirdly meditative. I think that's why these kind of games do well, is they're so dull. It allows your brain to kind of like relax in the background, because you've got your focus on something tedious almost. But yeah, I really like those kind of games. Anything that's like, oh my God, the Hornby Railway Simulator, where you build a little railway and then you drive the trains around it. Loved that as a kid as well. Train Simulator, all those kind of things, I am all over.
I think those would be cool, because you get to build the tracks.
You basically get to build your dream model railway, and then you drive the little trains around it and you're in the train. But it's, yeah, man, like anything like that where you're like, but I guess though, I am a person that likes planes, like I'm into that kind of stuff, to like mega structures and like engineering things. Like, I'm nerdy about all that stuff. So I think that then leads into the game. As a teenager though, when everyone's talking about games at school, it's a tricky conversation to have. When everyone's like talking about playing Grand Theft Auto
or Final Fantasy, and then you're like,
and I'm going,
Flight Simulator.
Has anyone experienced Euro Truck Simulator or Farm Simulator?
You were popular at school, weren't you?
Yeah, and I did look. I think I did have a lot of time on Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
But like now, I've got Grand Theft Auto 5, and like, yeah, like I get quite bored of it quite quickly. Whereas something that is meant to be boring really suits me.
It's
I think probably because my brain, like, like you say, I am 100 miles an hour all the time. So something that is actually quite dull, I find quite enjoyable.
Calming, yeah. You should try it. Have you played Stardew Valley?
No.
If you like, it's not, in terms of it being the art style, it's very kind of typical pixel art, but it's a very modern game. It's great. There's no ending to it. It's like Farmville, but for consoles, and 20 times better. You get to have your own farm, you get to build it up and get bigger and bigger and so on. You get to go to caves to find resources and stuff. You get to, on your farm, you grow certain plants, and after they've grown after a period of time, you get to go and take them and sell them in the local village and stuff like that.
So my kind of thing. Like, one of my favourite things, like building the roller coasters and stuff in Roller Coaster Tycoon, when it's things like managing and the irony is, I am not good with money in real life, but like managing the finances of the park, or how much you charge for things, and all those kind of things. Like, I find that all really fun.
I'm not faulting you on that. I like the admin of it as well, because again,
you know what? I would love the game Agent Tycoon, where you're like a comedy or Hollywood agent, and you like sign acts and you like virtually manage them. I think that's a really good idea for a game. Basically, that is pretty much my gaming history. Like, there is a few others that I've played over the years, but that would be most of the stuff that really still sticks out for me in my memory.
No problem. Listen, we're going to go into, because you hit some of my points as well. Like, what's banned in your house is probably Spyro, and funniest gaming story you told me about Flight Simulator. Nothing's beating that one. About saying that, ladies and gentlemen, we're just about to watch Finding Nemo.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will be cruising at an altitude of 37,000 feet. The weather the other side in New York is looking pretty chilly, but it should be okay. We'll get you down there as soon as we can. We've got a pretty good landing slot, and we should be smoothly coming into JFK in about 7 hours' time. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the flight. What a loser.
I love it, though. That's fun.
I lost my virginity as late as you'd imagine. When the new Flight Simulator came out, they released one for the first time in like basically a decade or so, a couple of years ago. And when I was thinking about buying it, I said to my girlfriend about it, and she knows that story. And she went, please, can we not have it in the house? That's really sad. I can't. She's like, I don't think I can think of anything worse than you sat in a room pretending to fly a plane whilst we could be doing something together. And I said, you could dress up as a stewardess, and then it's for both of us.
Mile High Club. There you go. Both of you could do that.
The Mile High Club in my own house.
In the cockpit of the plane. that would work. We
but it's just
get the whole screen, like a curved screen in front of you, and have her there, and both of you she can have the enjoyment that she wants while you can play Flight Simulator.
There is a really good rabbit hole worth going down, which is people who build cockpits in their house for these games. So there is a whole group of people, and you can buy like the center consoles that sit above you. You can people buy old cockpit parts and then repurpose them and use them for the games, and they spend tens of thousands. There's one guy, he took the front half of a car, gutted it, and then rebuilt a cockpit in it. There is a massive community on Reddit of people who do this. It's so interesting, and it also makes you think, how have people got this much money? These things are costing inordinate amounts. Although, I just think at that level, if you've got that much money, get some flight lessons.
That's a good point.
That
is a good point.
Because I have had a flight lesson, like a red letter day flight lesson thing, and it is much more exciting, but it is inordinately expensive to get your pilot's license and then to have a plane. But if you're a multi-millionaire, don't build a cockpit, be a pilot.
Get a plane. Travolta.
Yeah, because Dinesh Nathan, right? He is a qualified commercial airline pilot.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And I told him this story, and you've never seen a man more baffled. He was like, I spent thousands to train to do that, and then I was like, oh, it's not for me, I'm going to do comedy. And all you want to do in comedy is become a pilot.
That is funny. The grass is always greener on the other side, they say, don't
Always greener, mate. Always.
Listen, we're going to do a quick fire round.
Yep.
Okay? It's very simple.
All good.
The game's called L and R. You don't have to say L or R, but basically it's left or right. One or the other. Sega or Nintendo?
Nintendo.
Nintendo. Amen. Finally.
Yeah, Nintendo.
Crash or Spyro?
Crash.
Think we already know that one?
Yep.
All right. This one may not count for you, but it could do. But this would flag up as very risky if you were this person when it comes to Flight Simulator. Good character choices or evil character choices?
Good character choices.
Good. All right. Only be able to play games you've already completed, or only be able to play new games you've never tried?
Already completed. I think I'm a nostalgia guy.
Yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. A partner who forever hates video games, or a partner who forever beats you at video games?
Hates video games. She's a nightmare when she wins at anything.
Yeah. Fair enough.
What's quite good though is we'll go and do something she knows she can't do. Like, she's not very good at bowling. She's like, let's go bowling, and we go. She loses, and then it ruins the rest of her week. And I'm like, well, you picked it, and you knew you'd lose, but has to win at everything. So
she's
video
really
games banned for life.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, horrible.
Forever be able to play Flight Simulator but never be able to fly again, or never be able to play Flight Simulator ever again, but you would be allowed to fly?
I can, for the flying, just going to the airport is enough plane enjoyment for me. I am a real plane nerd. I'd be one of those people that stand at the end of Heathrow's runway filming them, but my partner would leave me.
Plane spotting. That's
Mate,
you.
I'm all about it. Like, I can sit and watch planes all day. Like, I would be happy just seeing them. I don't need to fly them on Flight Simulator to get my plane fix.
Have you been like in the I assume you've been in the cockpit of a plane before?
Yeah, I have been in the cockpit a few times.
Okay. And different classes as well that you've flown?
Oh, baby. Yeah. I mean, not for the last few years. It's left only when I get on a plane. That's my L, not my R. Turning
Fair
left.
enough.
I'm very good with air miles. I'm really hot at like working out how to get the most air miles from certain deals and stuff. Like, I've flown all over the world for like no money, first class, because I'm good at that.
Good. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. If you ever need tips on what to book and how to do it, there's lots of comics who come to me to help them book flights.
I've recently, so I'm very good at that too, in air miles and collecting. I'm the guy that will kind of teach you about how to spend your air miles once you've collected them on, let's say, your Amex points and stuff. So yeah,
all that kind of stuff. I'm very good in like, don't go on that flight with those points because that's a rip-off. Like, you're basically paying double of the points you get on another. All that I love. I'm such a loser about it all.
It's not a loser. It's good to be able to have that. There's whole websites. If you like the Points Guy, great website.
Yeah, love the Points Guy. He's fantastic. And there's also, I remember my girlfriend used to be like, oh, this is all sad. And then when we flew to Hong Kong for 200 quid first class, she was like, actually, you're allowed to be into this.
Exactly.
That's a whole other podcast that we should do. Like boring things you do as a comic that make your life 10 times better.
Like Flight Simulator. Oh, did I say that out loud? Sorry.
That's the annoying thing, mate. You don't get any. You don't get any fucking points when you do Flight Simulator.
Mate,
do the
you
flight.
would be racked up. You'd be
I'd
fine.
be rich, baby.
TV shows and movies based on video games, or video games based on TV shows and movies?
TV shows and movies based on video games. I love The Last of Us. I've never played it, but I want to.
Okay, it's you'll know most of the storyline if you watch a TV show, but it's still a great game to go through. A lot of jump scares. I couldn't get through all of it because I don't like scary games, but I've been able to get through as much as I possibly can, just enough to get the grasp of it, with all the noises and the clickers
I
and
had
stuff.
Resident Evil on Nintendo Wii back in the day, and I couldn't get through that. I played about an hour of it, and it was too scary.
Do you want to hear a joke? Go and play those games now. It's ridiculously hilarious how scary they're not, because our eyes are now attuned to what's better quality visuals. They are not scary anymore because they're so pixelated. It's hilarious to watch. Honestly, Resident Evil 2 on the PlayStation 1, I can play it now. Couldn't play it back then because it was so real. But now, the music is cheesy. It's really, really bad. It's really, really bad. So try it now. Honestly, it works.
Okay, cool. I'll go back to it.
Live in a world based on video games, or have video game characters live in your world?
Video game characters live in my world.
Yeah? Any particular characters?
Wouldn't it be nice to have Pokemon?
No. I've seen
As our pets.
I've seen the size of an Onyx, and that would destroy my house if I accidentally open it out of the Pokeball. So I'm good, thank you. I'm good. An Onyx is huge. I'm all right with
mate, all right.
That?
All right. Fair point, well made. I was thinking more about like the little cute ones. But you made
like
a very
Pikachu
good point.
and Eevee and so on. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
like having
great.
a little Eevee walking around. But you'd think, look at you going, I'll have an Onyx though, because I'm a legend.
Yeah, but all right, watch this. Having a Pikachu that is notoriously bad with its temper, and then trying to calm it down and then electrocuting yourself. I'm fine, thank you.
That's just having a girlfriend, isn't it?
Without the electrocution bit, unless I don't know what happens with your relationship, but if someone gets
we're
tasered
pretty,
and that's your lot's kink, then that's your thing.
Don't just play games on the console, my friend.
Listen, that's the end of the LNR. Matt Richardson, thank you for coming on. This was fun. I've learned so much about you that I did not know, and believe me, when I see you at a show, I am bringing this up every single
you can
time.
do, man. Absolutely. I don't mind.
I'll be walking around in a pilot's uniform saying, does this, like, anything? Just walking around going, I got my license. What have you got?
When I ask you to do an offstage announcement for me, so I can walk on stage, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the comedy club.
I love it. Oh, thank you very much, man. Is anything going on right now that you want people to check up on what you're doing? Any shows, any tours?
I'm on tour in the autumn of 2025. I've got a new tour called Brash. I mean, if you listen to this for an hour, you'll be going, I wonder why it's called that.
Brash is a very good way. Yeah, it's a very good way to describe it. I'll give you that.
Yeah. So that's out from September 25. I'll be on tour.
Nice one. Thank you, Matt Richardson, ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate you for listening in for another episode. Big up. Thank you very much. Take care. Peace. You've been listening to Aurie Styla's Replay Gang. The show is written and presented by me, Aurie Styla, and produced by Matt Nida. Replay Gang is a Wild Ambitions production. Leave us a rating, tell your friends, and we'll be back with another episode next week.